What's going on, everybody? Serial Entrepreneur here, and my buddy Ted. You guys saw him in one of the first videos for this series. So we're here together because we're going to be going over an email automation and putting one together for you, so that way you guys have a much clearer understanding of how to build your own automations, whether it be for your clients or for your own business. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. This is the third part of the email automation series, and we're, again, going to go into building an automation. So you can actually just take a look at the screen share really quick, and we're going to go through this. So this is a setup, again, of workflows that can trigger emails based on a user's actions. This also can do things like help gather statistics on your contacts, track purchases, and other administrative tasks. So basically, it's a series of email campaigns that aligns perfectly with a logical flow. So when you look at an email automation, it's basically sending on whether the customer, again, has made a purchase, has signed up for something, has visited a specific website, has, there's all kinds of triggers, and we'll show you guys what these triggers are and how to implement them into your campaigns. We'll also be going over how to set up an email automation using ActiveCampaign, because again, that's the software we use. So we don't really get into MailChimp too much. Again, I don't like it at all with regards to automations. Their automations are terrible.
Pretty bad.
I would just recommend using ActiveCampaign. The link's right there if you haven't set up an account yet. And again, they have a partner program. So like after you purchase your first 2 accounts, they give you 25% off of everything. So and then it actually builds from there. So I think when you reach 5 accounts, 10 accounts, it goes up to 30%, 40%, stuff like that. So it's a really great platform to use. So before continuing on with your automation, you'll need to make sure that everything else is set up. So you're going to want to look at your ads that you're creating, the messaging or content, any value offers or creative. Why is this important? Well, if you get to the email campaign, right? So say you have an automation, and say this automation, we'll just look at my business because we'll be kind of using it as an example, or we always do. So, say you have an automation about, starting a 6-figure business online, right? So all of the content is going to be about starting a 6-figure business online. Well, if you have a 6-figure business online, then that's where you basically want to keep them, or if you're trying to give them messaging about a 6-figure business online, you want to keep the messaging relevant. So when you look back to your Facebook ads and then to your ClickFunnels page, is the messaging the same as what's going on in that email campaign? Because you have to remember, when you start a Facebook ad, you're trying to get them to do what? Either make a purchase, sign up for something, visit something, right? So you're saying that this is the first point of contact is the Facebook ad. So you're saying, okay, if you want to learn how to make a 6-figure business, click through and we'll send you this free document, right? Via email. All right. So they click through, they go to your ClickFunnels page. Well, if they go to your ClickFunnels page and it's about puppies and dogs, does that have anything to do with what they just clicked on an ad about? No. So it's going to throw them off completely. All of the messaging and content needs to be planned out ahead of time, so that way the messaging stays consistent all the way throughout the ad. Does that make sense? So that's one of the biggest keys to making sure this goes off correctly, is to make sure that all of the content aligns properly all the way through to the email campaign or automation. So that's the biggest and most important thing. And then also, do you have it integrated with your funnel page? So is everything actually integrated to pull over contacts? Do you have your lists set up so that way, when someone does subscribe, it actually enters their information? That would kind of suck if you didn't have all that going on. And then,
Sure.
all of the tracking platforms, stuff like that. So do you have analytics going? Do you have everything going to make sure that you are able to track a user from start to finish? And then you want to make sure that your content is aligned with the same goals and content. So, like we mentioned before, if you have specific, so if you're trying to get someone to sign up for something just so you can capture their email and build an email list, that needs to be the goal all the way throughout. Plus, it needs to be kept in mind when you go to the email marketing campaign. If they came there, if the goal initially was to capture their email information so you could contact them, well, that means throughout this email series, you need to send them value offers and then try to promote a sale of some form. And we'll show you how we build out our automations to kind of go through all of that.
Hey guys, my name's Ted. I'm going to take over from here for now. So once you're in, we're going to go off of ActiveCampaign, like Jordan said, as opposed to MailChimp, because we just found that to work better. So once you're in ActiveCampaign, just kind of the basic steps here. You're going to hit the automations tab, and from the beginning, what I would suggest is to really hop in and do it from scratch, as opposed to picking one of the other templates. You could pick one of the other templates to kind of see how it's built if you need an example, but the way I learned and Jordan learned is just hop in, start from scratch, kind of play around with the different features and functions and really understand it. So when you're actually setting up your automation, what you're going to do is you need to pick a start point. So, that's important because that's how your actual contacts are going to start the automation. You're not going to just run every single email contact through this automation because it's an email contact. They're going to need to be able to meet certain conditions that you have set up prior to the automation starting. For instance, did they subscribe to a list? Did they open an email? Do they have a certain tag applied to them? Things like that. So we'll go more over that once we actually hop into ActiveCampaign itself. So when you're actually setting up the automation, it doesn't have to just be one start trigger. You can actually do multiple start triggers. So you could have somebody who's subscribed for a list, one, but also has, tag, purchased, X item. And that way you can really get multiple groups to go through a contact list, through an automation if you feel it's necessary for them. So just something to keep in mind, as well as you can actually run people, you can segment them, which by that you can actually add multiple conditions for your start trigger as opposed to just doing it based off a list. Like I could do, you need to be part of list 1, list 2, list 3, or you can actually go, so like you said, list 1, list 2, list 3, or you can run through, so say someone has not purchased, that's a tag that they have. You can start an automation, like he said, based off of someone not purchasing something, or maybe we want to target all of our users who visited our Facebook page at some point. So we can actually segment that out and send those guys or girls, sorry guys, an automation. So that way, it makes it more custom. It makes it more relevant, and that's the whole goal. The more personalized you can make these email messages, the better off you're going to be with in terms of ROI or in terms of results for your clients. You want to make sure that it's as customized as possible, because if you're just sending out, like he actually gave an example in one of the previous videos about a grocery store. Well, if you have a segment of people who are vegans, and then you have a segment of people who like to buy just meats and that's their thing. Well, if you're sending messaging to the vegans about meat, you're hitting the completely wrong audience, and you can track all of this information. And the Facebook example doesn't really relate exactly to that particular example, but that's all we're trying to say, is the fact that you don't have to actually start an email automation based off of just a list. You can do it almost on any type of segmentation, list, whatever. All right, so once, kind of actually when you're starting your start triggers or just overall automation itself, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. I wouldn't rush right into it. You really need to plan the whole thing out before you even build it. How many emails do you want to send? Do you want to resend emails? If the user doesn't see it the first time, how quickly do you want a contact to actually go through the automation? Do you want to get them through all your value series in a week? Do you want to wait 2 weeks? Do you want them to know in 24 hours? I wouldn't recommend that, but it also just depends on how you set up your automation and how much information you're trying to give to your contact. Do you want, what's the goal? What's the overall goal of your automation? Are you trying to sell a product? Do you want to promote your website? Do you just want to give value to your email contacts to, build that relationship between you and them? So, also, what do you want to set up tags for them completing certain actions? You can actually set up tags through the automation itself, but you can also do it through the emails. It took me a couple times to learn that, but and also, you can actually kick them over to another automation. You don't necessarily have to you just end them out the automation. If you're trying to sell them on a product and you're giving them a bunch of different value emails and they're not taking it, you can kick them over to another automation that tries from a different approach. That's maybe less aggressive, or hits just a different side of the thing. Once again, it's important to take your time to make sure that everything is set up properly. Don't rush. Take your time, do your testing, and like I said before, it might be beneficial to just draw out the thing on paper to see. Just have an understanding of what you want it to look like.
And that's what we always do, guys. So when I start a campaign, or when I'm thinking about starting a campaign for a customer, for my business, whatever it may be, you have to start the planning process. And you guys have heard me harp on this tons, but it's all about the planning process. So if you don't plan out the automation, if you don't plan out the flow of it, the content, and all of the triggers, how you want it to work, you're going to have a lot of miscues and miscommunication with your actual clients or potential customers. So this is why it's so important. I mean, it really is. If you want to have a successful email, this is why we get anywhere from 30 to 50% open rates on our emails, is because of the fact that we plan it out. And not only that, but we don't just try to sell people. So, and we'll get into a little bit more of that in the when we start building the automation, but just know that's why it's important. Planning is the key to success here. It's not, email marketing is not hard. This is one of the easiest forms of marketing that you can learn.
Sure.
But it's, if you don't plan, if you're not a planner, or if you don't actually take the time to map out the whole series, you're not going to have success with it. I promise you that.
You're going to have a bad time. Okay. So here are some of the key components I would recommend more than likely putting in your automation when you build it out. Having a start trigger, obviously the content. You can actually do text or email sends through this. The texting is not, it's actually more expensive, so just keep that in mind. Wait timers, logic statements is if, else, or you can actually split your traffic 50-50. Your end of your automation, which is obviously important, tags and goals. But we'll kind of touch more on that when we're actually going through the automation. So when you're actually building the automation, you can actually have several areas where you will end your automation. You're not going to force everybody through the same exact automation every time. If your goal is to sell somebody on a product or a course or service, through your automation, and they end up buying through in the middle of your automation, do you really want them to finish out the automation? If you have a couple promotional offers through there saying, hey, $50 off on the first one, $100 off on the second one, you don't want the person to take $50 off on the first one, and then, in a week, he or she gets that email for $100 off, but they've already purchased your service, then they're going to be upset. So, be smart, make sure that, from a professional standpoint, you don't want to do that, but be smart, kind of think these things through and make sure you're doing everything correctly. Also, like we said before, based on the contact's actions, you might want to start them in another automation. If you didn't convert them the first time, you might want to kick them through another value series automation. Or, if they purchase your product, maybe you want to upsell them on something else they have.
Right. And so that is a key thing, guys. So you don't just create an automation and you're done. That's not how you ever noticed how the big companies, you're always receiving content from them via email? That's because they have several different automations that build off of each other. And all you do is, if a customer hasn't purchased, or even if they have purchased and they'll keep buying, you just put them into another automation. So at the end of an automation, you're just going to forward them through to the next one, and then they'll start that automation. So it's key to keep keep automations going, so that way you have, number one, you're always getting in touch with them, so top of mind awareness is always on point. And then you're always keeping them up to date on the information with your business, what promotions are available, what's going on in the business, stuff like that. So just some tips, guys. When you're setting up your flow, make sure to take your time and make sure to test your automations to understand how they work. Again, less is more, so make sure that your flow is not too cumbersome. If so, if there is an issue, it makes it very difficult to fix if you have all of these pieces all over the place. Just trust us, we've done this before. And you don't want to overwhelm your automation, because it will become overwhelming, and making small fixes just becomes really hard. So Just to review, just because you or just review everything that you did in your automation. That's kind of our final point. So once you finish up an automation, go through it and actually look at each individual piece. So not just the emails themselves, but the triggers, and try to think, well, does this make sense? Do I want a person to wait a day before they receive this email? Do I want them to wait 10 days before they receive this next email? You need to be aware of how the triggers are working, and then if it makes sense to send emails to those customers when you're planning to send them. And so, for example, you wouldn't want to send an email and then have another email come out 30 minutes later and another email come out 45 minutes later, and then you are going to piss them off. And I guarantee you will have an unsubscribe really quick. Yep. So, and that's really the key. And so just some last things to remember, guys, people, when you're sending out automations or when you're building your automations, just some last things that I like to mention, or what I like to do every single week, is basically just make sure you're keeping those lists clean, because once you start your automations, you're going to have people going through them, obviously, and you will have unsubscribes, you will have bounced emails, and that affects your domain provider or domain providers for email actually recognize when you have a ton of unsubscribes or a ton of bounced emails, and that actually affects your ability to end up in the primary inbox. So you're going to want to make sure, again, just every single week, maybe on a weekly basis, start cleaning out those unsubscribes, looking at bounced emails, removing those email addresses, and making sure that you're only hitting the best audience possible, so that way you get the most opens as possible. So now that we've gone through kind of the brief little intro of how automations work, we're actually going to go in now and look at building an automation. All right, so we've started a test one right here. We've started a test one right here that we're going to build off of. So you can see right now what we have is the beginning stages of an automation. So what we're going to show you, and this is kind of it's the structures to our automation. So we do a 3, 4, or 5-part value series with 2 to 3 promotional offers included. Okay, so what that means is we're going to send out a welcome email, then we're going to send out 5, we'll break it up, but we send out 5 total promotion or value offers. So just a downloadable link, free content, whatever it may be to get them intrigued. And then we also send out throughout that period 2 to 3 different promotional emails. So that way, the promotional emails are basically going to say, okay, well, here's all we've been giving you all this free content. How do you like this? Here's $50 off our course, or here's $10 off our product. Here's a one-time purchase offer, something like that.
And when you're sending out your value emails, keep in mind, the goal is to build a relationship with your email contact. Think, what would you want to see from somebody you subscribe to? What would benefit you? What would make you want to keep, get excited about opening the next email to see what's coming down the list.
Right. And again, that's where the planning comes in. And, when you go through, so if you're going to do 5 value offers, and say your content series is on how to wash dog or how to take care of your dog, right? You would want all 5 of those value emails to be about taking care of a dog, because that's what they signed up for. That's what they were interested in. So by building on that, you're only making them like you more. And when it comes to that point where they actually have to purchase something, they're way more likely to purchase because you've been giving them all this free, valuable content. They just don't have everything that they need to get the job done. And that's what they're coming to you for. So I'm going to let Ted take over from here, and he's basically just going to build through this automation with you guys, show you how to start it, how to set up the emails, what kind of triggers to put in place, all of that stuff, goals to set, and it's super easy to use. Just, again, pay close attention. You will have to watch this video a couple times because it is not something you can just pick up like that and run with it. You have to study this. And again, the biggest thing I always tell you guys, practice. Go get a campaign or go purchase ActiveCampaign. It's not expensive. Get inside of it and start building automation. Start building email campaigns for your business or something like that, or for one of your free clients that you're working with, or even if you have a client that's maybe you're working with right now and you've never done email marketing before, but you want to start it, tell them you'll do it for them for free for like 4 months or something, so that way you get some experience under your belt. But I'm going to let Ted take over now and start on the automation.
Okay. Like we discussed in the PowerPoint slides, you got to start with a start trigger. So whenever you actually do create a new automation, the first thing that pops up is creating your start trigger, because that's the first part. So we'll just edit this one right here. The action I actually selected for this is subscribing to a list. And it's talking about the list that you have an ActiveCampaign or whatever email software you're using, probably ActiveCampaign, but and you can actually do it based on any list, or for instance, I can do off a free course giveaway, and then like I was mentioning before, the segmentation. So I can actually force them to meet another condition in order to join this automation. So I can be like, actions has clicked on a link, and I can do it from a previous automation or campaign, and I can pick a link out of one of those emails or automations. And then
so really quickly, let's just look through some of these so you guys can see kind of, all of the different types of categories that you can look at. Because this kind of says, okay, this has to do with the segmentation. You're using segmentation to understand where contacts come from, more information about that contact and actions they've performed. So again, I mean, this is the best part about ActiveCampaign. Look, you can pull people by their name, by their phone number, organization, the time or date they subscribed, where they're located via their IP address, their total conversion value, so if they've purchased a ton. You can also go back and you can do by actions. So like Ted mentioned, has clicked on a link. Have they opened an email or not opened an email? Has it been sent or has been sent? Has an email been sent? Has shared socially? Has forwarded? There's all these different types of triggers that you can start from. And this isn't even all of them. There's tons down here. Deals, site and event data. So this is a really cool one. Has visited a specific web page or not visited a specific web page. So if they've purchased something, this is how you can set that up. Or if they haven't purchased something, you can set that up here as well. So that's why this is important, and it's important to go through it. And again, I tell you guys, you have to get in there and work it. That's why, because you won't know all this stuff exists unless you get in there and start working in it. We can only show you so much. So
exactly. And if we were to save that, and like we were mentioning in the PowerPoint as well, you can actually add a second start trigger here.
You can add 20 start triggers, just so you know.
Basically, yeah, you can keep adding them. So there's all these different options, web page visit, which is a little bit more complicated to do, but there's easy instructions that we can provide in order to do that. Shares an email, forwards an email, if they reach a specific goal in one of your other automations or campaigns. So there's tons of different options here in order to get the ball rolling on your automation. So, once if you're pushing it from a ClickFunnels, what I would suggest is to basically, if they're being pushed from a ClickFunnels into a list, you might want to start your automation based on a subscriber. So they're subscribing to that list from the ClickFunnels, which is so we go to subscribes and you pick the list like I showed you, and so if they subscribe and the ClickFunnels is pushing them to the free course giveaway, then go ahead and hit add start.
And guys, just so you're aware, when you're in ClickFunnels, you actually select, it integrates completely with ActiveCampaign. So you select, you build the list on ActiveCampaign, and then you go over to ClickFunnels. When you integrate it, you select the list inside of ActiveCampaign. And we're going to put together a video on ClickFunnels, so don't worry about that or stress about that. We will. Obviously, we got you. But just know that, it's going to add these contacts automatically. It'll, number one, automatically add them to the list inside ActiveCampaign. Right. And number two, it'll automatically add them into the automation from the list inside of ActiveCampaign.
Exactly. So once you figure out your start triggers, then, we start out with the welcome email. Or if you want to add another action before that, well, let's just go over the actions first. So when you see a plus sign anywhere throughout your automation, you can click and add a different action here. So with your sending actions, you could send an email, you can send a text message, or you can even set up a notification for your users your admins who are actually creating the automation. So if a certain threshold is hit where somebody passes like email 2, you can set up a notification to be like, all right, now Jordan gets an email saying, hey, somebody just passed email 2. If you go down to the conditions and workflow, this is really your logic right here. This really can change or turn where your contacts go within an automation. So, usually after each email, we like to give a wait timer. and you can actually select how long you want them to wait for, which is important, and we'll talk more about that here in a second. You have a couple, if you're familiar with the term Boolean operators, or really logical statements, you can determine if, say, you want to see if somebody opened an email. You can create an if-else statement right here, and you can do it based on if they opened an email, they didn't open an email, they clicked the link, basically all the actions that Jordan showed earlier. If they meet that condition or don't meet that condition, it'll actually split them up.
So basically what he's trying to say, guys, to kind of break it down. So say I have an email that goes out that teaches people how to do digital marketing, right? And then I have, obviously, I'm going to do another email after that, right? But there's two variances that are going to happen with this first email. They're either going to open it or they're not going to open it. So that's what he's talking about with if-else statements. So that basically in that automation, it would look like, all right, here's the first email. We send 10 contacts through. 7 opened, 3 didn't, right? So the 7 who opened, they're going to wait a day, and then they'll be sent another email. The 3 who didn't, they're going to wait maybe 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, depending on how you want to set up your automation. And it'll say, okay, well, they didn't open the email. We're going to either resend them, or we'll put them into a different automation, or we'll say, add them to a specific list and then put them back through the automation. There's all kinds of different things, but you have to be the one to determine what type of action needs to happen there. And that's just going to be based on you and your plan with the automation.
Yep. So you can also do an even split. It'll just basically go switch people left, right. There's no logic behind it. It'll just kick users back and forth, to your 2 different branches in your automation.
Well, basically what this is for split testing. So if you have an email, so say you have how to wash your dog email, right? But then say you have another cool idea for that email and you want to see which one works better. That's all the split function right there is for. It's for split testing. So you can literally go, okay, this is how to wash your dog 1. This is how to wash your dog 2 email. We're going to send it to 300 contacts and split them up and see which one performs better. That's what it's for. Because again, you should be testing your ads. You want to make sure you're not only testing your Facebook ads, your pay-per-click ads, or whatever ads you're running, but you also want to test the content in your emails. It's going to let you know what's working effectively and what's not. So you can see right here in the screen, all you have right here is A will go here, B will go here, and then basically, the logic pushes those people through. So basically when you're looking at it, if email A outperforms email B, then you're just going to say, okay, cool, we're going to keep email A right there. We're going to trash email B. And if you want, you can always put another email in to try and, keep testing. And you always want to test, because the more optimized your campaigns are, your ads, your emails, whatever it may be, the better results you're going to have for either your customer or your business. So that's why that's important.
Okay. So, here the next option is go to because as you see, it kind of splits right here, and these will continuously go all the way down to the bottom now. If you want to say, you have a split right here, but you want to recombine your 2 lanes right here to basically come back together at some point, you can actually you can use this go to option and then drag it to another action over here in order to bring it back down to 1 lane for all your users. Obviously, this is not the best place to put it, but I hope
you wouldn't actually put it right there in the example. Basically, all you would do is if you have a go to another action. So say you send them an email, they don't open it, and then you send them a resend, right? But you don't want to send them another resend and another resend until they open it, because that's what you would eventually have to do.
Right.
You want them to go back to the main flow of the automation. That's all go to another action really is used for, is to bring them back to the same flow. And you guys will see when you start building out your automations, you'll get in there and say, well, I need them to get back over to this side of the email series. So that's where go to another action comes into play.
All right, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit here. Give me just a second. All right, so if we take it back a step here, we can create a goal as well, and this is really important. This actually simplifies most of your automations a lot. So a goal is basically something that you want your email contact to do. It's like an action, but you can actually send your contact to this point in the automation once they complete that action. So for instance, you can see here above, the goal right here is we want them to open value email 1. And we have, we're going to wait a day, and then we're going to send it to them again. We'll send it to them a little bit differently than our first value 1 email, because you don't want to send the exact same email again, necessarily.
But why are we sending it again, Ted?
Because we want them to open it.
Right. And so basically the point he's trying to make is from this first email, we sent them that email. We have a resend down here. That's what this is. It's the exact same email, has a little bit different wording, but it's a resend. So that's what you guys need to understand is what he's trying to say is if he sends out the first email and then they open it, then that's what that goal is going to be down here for. We don't want to send them this resend, right? So if they open this first email, there's going to be a goal right below both of these emails that says basically they open the first email. So they jump to that spot. They skip the resend.
Right. So you can hop in here and you can see. So we'll add that action as opened. And then you look for email
Select your
here.
Specific email. Yep.
And you got to make sure through all your, this is going to look through all your automations and campaigns.
And
so,
emails.
So it's important to label properly.
Right.
If you have too many, if you have, welcome as the name of all your welcome emails, then it's going to be hard to differentiate between you. It's going to be impossible, actually.
Yeah, it will be impossible. And we went over all this in our first few videos, guys. So again, just remember, it is super important to make sure that every name is as specific as possible for each individual email. It can be tedious, but trust me when I say that it will save you time in the long run.
Correct. Okay, so we has opened value 1 test. We're going to save that. And we have our name. We have our action right here. Okay, at this point you see, and when the goal is, you're gonna have 2 options. You're gonna have below contact's position, and you're gonna have anywhere. Basically what this is saying is, you're gonna wanna really start from the top of the automation and make them flow all the way down to the bottom. Whenever you set up a goal, what's gonna happen is if your contact meets the criteria, or hits that action for the goal, it's going to move them to that goal. So if you do below contact's position, it's only going to move them to the goal if they're above the goal. If they're below the goal, it's not going to do that unless you set that to anywhere. So just keep that in mind when you're setting up a goal. And then lastly, you're going to have the option to continue anyways. If they don't meet the conditions, you can wait until the conditions are met. So, if you...
Just be careful when you're doing this, guys, because you continue anyway if you're in an automation where you're sending them value offers and you have promotional offers, stuff like that. But if you were to hit wait until conditions are met, that means if they don't open any of the emails, they'll never go through the rest of the automation. So that's why you have to be careful when you set that up. You want to make sure that the conditions aren't too strict, because if they are, you'll just have 20 people sitting at the top of an email list never going through it. And it's because of that goal that you set up. So that's why these are important. And then like he said, not like he said, but at the very bottom you have the last one that says end this automation. You can set that up at the end of an automation basically to make sure that no one's going through an automation and isn't opening your emails. Because again, when people don't open your emails, it actually affects your ability to, make sure that your emails end up in the primary inbox as opposed to a promotional folder or a spam folder. So that's pretty much it for the goals.
Okay. So, here's a couple other options here. You can start an automation, you can end this automation, and you can actually end another automation that they're in. It's all about where you want to, place these. You can create goals within your flow to be like, like we talked about earlier, if else statement. Let's say if they read email 1 or opened email 1, then you're going to put them down one path, and then you can actually have them start another automation, kick them over. And if they don't open that email, you can have them go down the other path, which you can continue on the same automation or end your automation, or actually even end another automation, like I said.
It's totally up to you. It's totally up to what the objective of that automation or that campaign is. And that's why this is all important. Because if you come in here and just start trying to build automations but haven't put the planning in, you're going to get in here and realize, well, shit, I don't exactly know what I need to be doing here. So again, these are all just really quick things that you can, or really quickly, we're just going over these because these are all things you can use in your email automation. And you want to make sure that you're using them to your advantage. The last couple ones are just contacts. So you can add a new action, so basically subscribe to another list, unsubscribe from lists, update contacts. All of these are pretty straightforward. I mean, we're not going to go through and explain each and every one because it is very straightforward. It removes tags, add tags. I mean, these are all triggers that you can use basically to update contacts information, update them in an automation itself, whatever it may be. So Ted's basically got in here, so we've got the automation right. So we've got our start point, we've got our welcome email, we've got our first couple of wait times and our first goal, right? So now what are we going to get into? We're going to get into, after that, immediately sending out our first value email, right? And so that's what we have right here. You can see we have send value 1 test. And then here's what you would basically want to choose. Are you going to resend this or not? So you don't, that's why you see 2 here. We have our first send. We wait for a day to see if they open it. If they didn't, we resend it. This goal right here basically just says if they do open this email, skip the resend and bring them down here to where we're going to begin our next email or portion of that email automation.
And right here, you can see we added in this wait timer right here. So you don't necessarily want to, okay, so if they met that goal, you don't want to just go ahead and send them the next value email. You want to give them some time to read and digest what you first sent them, and then go ahead and start sending them down the next series. Okay? So now we're going to go ahead and get value 2 email done. So we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and set up our next email. You can, your sending options, send email, and you can actually select, you can actually create a new email. So we'll say value 2 test, I can type test, create, and then it'll actually take you into the templates. So you can actually select a template, which I would recommend creating all your emails prior to. If you just want, what we're going to do, just a placeholder right now, we'll just go ahead and hit save and exit. So you can see right here we have a wait. We're going to go ahead and send value to email, and then we're going to want to do another wait because you don't want to go ahead and do your resend as soon as you send your value to email out because you don't know if they're going to open it or not. So you got to give them some time. So here we're actually adding in our value to resend. I would actually recommend creating a separate resend email. You can actually copy it here. So once you select your value 2, you can click this and copy and edit, and it'll actually create a copy of that value 2 email so that you can change it. So let's just do this, copy and edit, and down here you can see this is my copy. So I could change it up to what I want it to do exactly. So well, right now, placeholder, save and exit. So here you send out your resend. You can actually, I would recommend actually creating the template prior to setting up your automation. Then you can create your goal, like we talked about earlier. So we're going to create value to email open.
And just know, guys, basically anytime you have an area where you're going to resend an email, you want to set up a goal. So that way you're not skipping and you don't have to do a bunch of if-then statements like if they open this email, send them the resend, or if they don't open this email, send them the resend. That's what the goal is for. It makes it easier to streamline the whole process on your automation.
So I'm not adding the other condition, which, since we actually have 2 different emails, we have the value to email and then we have the value to resend. We're not doing that here because I don't have a wait timer after that value to resend. So it's automatically going to hit that goal after my value to resend. So there's no need for it here. If you end up putting a wait timer after your value to resend, then you're going to want to come here and add another condition. And you would want to do or. Make sure you do or in this particular instance, because if you do and, it has to meet both conditions before it meets the goal, technically.
Right, and that's the logic behind it, guys. So it's and basically says have they opened both of the emails, or says have they opened this or this email.
Exactly. So save, and then below your contact's position, continue anyways. Okay, so you get the gist of setting up goals, adding emails, setting up your wait timers, kind of your basic flow right here. You know, like Jordan was saying earlier, we weren't going to go through like the contact tags and so on and so forth. I'd recommend adding those within your email templates so that when they click a link or, you know, complete a specific function, then you're collecting it there and not complicating your automation too much.
Right, and I mentioned that actually back in the building an email template email where I showed building a link and you can actually segment. So I'll show you guys really quickly what that kind of looks like. So if we just go into one of our automations, I'll just show you what it kind of looks like. All right, so right here you can see we have a link for our school, right? So where they can go and sign up. So if I click on this link, basically what I can do is I can click the link button right here, and you can see Digital Marketing School is where that link is going to take them, and then we have a tag. So add tags, pixel hit, promotional offer funnel. All right, so this is number one, a form of segmentation in all of your emails. That's kind of what Ted was talking about. You're able to do to where you can customize your emails and make sure that you're not only customizing your emails, but tracking your contacts and making sure that you understand what type of contact they are, whether they've purchased, whether they haven't purchased, what they have and have not engaged with, all of that. So that's all Ted's trying to mention right there. So let's go back into the automation that we were building. So now that you kind of understand how these work, basically we're just going to continue on into this automation and kind of show you how we set it up for effectiveness. So this is the welcome email. Again, we have that. We have our first value offer. We have our second value offer. And we're just going to say we're going to do 4 value offers and 2 promotional emails in this one, right? We want to send them a promotional offer, so that's all you're going to do. You're going to put a promotional offer. You want to determine whether you want to resend that promotional offer or not. So if you do, just add in the second copy like Ted just showed you. And then we're going to add a goal. So all we're going to do is come in here, go to conditions and workflow, add a goal. And basically this will say, in this goal, we want to determine have they purchased the Digital Marketing School or not. So purchase, yes or no. You could do something like that if you wanted. Again, this is all just strictly an example. And then click to add goal. Whoops. So then we're going to do, say it's site and event data has visited, and then your purchase URL. You'd put that there. So purchased URL. I don't know if that's going to take it, but we'll see.
Okay, so if they purchased your product, then you can do an if-else statement, or if they didn't purchase it, whatever, you could do an action like we were talking about. It says if they've actually hit the site, has visited, you know, your URL, which would be purchased. Okay, so now you have your split right here. If they purchased it, then you can go ahead and just end them in the automation, or you could start them on another automation if you want to go ahead and you have an automation for upselling
or onboarding. So if they just purchased your product, you can actually put them into an onboarding email automation, which that automation would be, you know, like 2 or 3 emails saying, this is how you engage with our company. This is how you ask for help. This is what you need to do now to get going. You know, all of that stuff.
Okay, but we'll click end automation for that one. If they didn't purchase it, you know, maybe it's a good time to actually kick them over into another automation. So go ahead and click Start Automation.
You could do that. But for this example, we're going to just continue through our automation.
Correct.
Because like I said, we're going to do a 4-part promotional offer or value offer series and then 2-part promotional offer. So in this case, we're just going to send them through to our next value offer. So go ahead and add that.
Let me point something out real quick. And this is why it's, you know, important to take your time. As you can see the goal right here, you want to give them some time, really. So even though we sent the product offer, we want to give them, you know, a day to, you know, think about it, or however long you deem necessary, because as soon as it sends, it's going to keep going down the next option, the next option. It doesn't just think about it. So once it's past that, you know, as soon as you send that email and they haven't bought it, like in the first 10 seconds, it's automatically assumed no. Right. And it'll force them down this way. So
that's why waits are important. Make sure you're paying attention to your wait periods because, again, you know, like Ted just said, if we wouldn't have put that wait period right there, it would have already sent them through the automation, which, you know, after 14 seconds, that's just not enough time to determine whether someone's going to purchase something or not. So now we're in our value 3 email. All we're going to do is we're not really going to talk about this too much. You guys kind of get the flow. So we're going to do another value email. We're going to do a resend on our value email. And then we're going to offer, or not do our offer, we're going to send our 4th value email. So you guys can see, boom, wait for a day, do our value email 3, resend.
You'll create your special resend.
Right,
we talked
create
about
your
before.
resend. Obviously, that's where you would put it. We're just for saving time. Add your goal. Make sure you have the goal, so opened or not. And then you select the position. Make sure that you have, you know, the action. Basically, have they opened the email or not. Always remember, you can segment. You see right there at the bottom it said add new segment. You can segment, add lists, stuff like that. You can do conditions, whatever. Just make sure that you take your time and build that out properly. So we're done here. We're going to save that goal, and now again we're basically going to move them on into the next promotional offer.
Okay, so yeah, after they got the value email, we'll go ahead. We'll pretend like we've already went through value email 4, and then we're sending, like Jordan said, the next promotional offer. So we're creating our promotional offer right here.
Product offer number 2.
Excuse me. Product offer 2. Exit.
And again, this is just where you would attach your template if you already have them pre-made, where we keep clicking save and exit. That's where you would attach your template.
Yep. Okay, then you put your wait timer. Specific period of time, a day. Then you could set it again.
But in this case, just so you guys are, just so you can, I guess, see the difference, we're just in this case, we're not going to send it because this is our final product offer actually for this email automation. So we're actually going to leave that wait out. And again, guys, just remember, like we have our product offer 2 in here. So just remember there would be product offer 4. We're just, for time's sake, skipping product offer 4. It's the exact same as what you did right here with 3 and 2. But now we have our final product offer. So this one we're actually only going to send once, okay? And why is this important? Because you're giving that, well, at least in the way we look at it, it's our final offer to them. So this is where we're going to offer our highest value amount for a discount or a promotion, or our coolest promotion that we're offering at this time. So that's why we're going to send it to them once. If they've engaged throughout the rest of this email series, they're probably going to engage with this final product offer.
Exactly.
And then all you're going to do basically from here is you're going to figure out, okay, now that I've sent my final product offer, how do I want to end this automation? Or do I want to continue this automation? So we could do an if-else statement. And basically say if they purchased, then remove them from automation. If they haven't purchased, we're going to continue them on to another automation. So we'll show you how we're going to do that right now.
Okay, so like we said before, we'll put the purchase URL there, whatever that is from your page or your product. And you can add a segment there as well if you want them to hit that.
And just one quick thing I want to mention, guys. You can see right here it says URL exact. I don't recommend using exact ever. You should always do contains and then just put in the exact email, because sometimes just trust me, URLs can get confusing and they can include and exclude different portions depending on, you know, what specific page they're visiting. It could be a thank you page with 2 different tails on the URL. So just do URL contains and then make sure you're adding in the right URL and you should be fine. But just wanted to make a little note of that.
Okay, so once we determine if they hit the conditions or not, yes, okay. You could go in and add a tag right there, say purchased if you want to. And that's, relatively easy. Purchased, okay. And then you can end the automation. So end this automation. Boom, they're out.
Or, just to remind you guys, or you could say, enter them into the onboarding automation if they just purchased a product. Really, it's up to you. You can end it. You can enter them into this isn't necessarily the first time they're going through an automation. You have to keep that in mind. You're going to have several automations. And just keep in mind, guys, you don't necessarily have to end this automation here. So again, this is the first time they've been through an automation, so it's a little different. But say they're in their 3rd automation, you can continue them on to another automation. You don't have to just end it just because they
Right.
purchased. There's an onboarding process you can use or take advantage of where you know, kind of get them introduced with your business, get them introduced to the product if they have questions. And, you know, there's just all kinds of different options. So just don't limit yourself. Don't think that just because we're saying right here, we're ending this automation, that you have to end your automations. It's up to you how you want the continuation of your emails to go. You have to be the one to be able to logically say, okay, well, they've been through this part of the email. Do I want to continue them on, or do I need to enter them into some other type of automation series? And then on this last part, again, so if they didn't purchase it, so right here, this is typically where you're going to want to enter them into another automation. So you literally just click start an automation, or you could say, you know, you could even add a tag. So, and say, you know,
Did not purchase.
Did not purchase, but they've been through, you want to be specific, but through first automation. They made it through the first automation, right? You could save that as your tag if you wanted. So that way you can get a little more specific. And then all you're going to do is you're going to come in here to this last part, and you're going to say, okay, we're going to start them on another automation. Then you come in, you select your automation that you want them to go through, save it, and then boom. That's it. That's all we have going now. And I mean, that's building an automation from start to finish. Again, I recommend doing series like where it's about 4 to 5 value offers with 2 to 3 promotional offers,
Right.
spread out throughout. So that way, again, and you noticed we didn't put any promotional offers right up front. We have some text usually in our email already that says, hey, check this out. It's not, excuse me, it's not salesy, but it says, you know, here's our website that you can check out with more free information if you want. That will get some conversions, but again, your real conversion points are going to be right here where you start sending the promotions or the promotional offers.
So, and then once you're done with your automation, you feel comfortable with it, you're ready to go. All you got to do is click on this active guy right here. I'm not going to do that because it's tied to other list, but click active. You come back to your automations, and then you can actually see it.
It'll be
It's
green or
active.
red based off of whether it's active or, you know, not active. And again, the biggest and most important parts here, before you click active, you want to make sure your funnels are set up. You want to make sure all the messaging is set up. You want to make sure your ads are ready to go on Facebook, all of that. Before you ever make any of these go live, because
Right.
you will have instances where if you start it too early, you have to go back and try and resubmit contacts through to get, because you messed up part of the automation, or maybe it wasn't related to something in your ad campaign. You need to adjust some things. There's tons of different reasons why, but
Exactly.
those are just the things you want to keep in mind. So that's basically it for this video, guys. Thanks again for joining me and Ted. In the next video, we're actually going to talk about continuing the automations. So basically scaling your automations if you want to continue pushing people through content. We're going to talk briefly about how to set those up. Not really how to set them up like this, but you know, what types of content you want to talk about, and how you want to push those contacts through to where you're not just selling them stuff. You're actually giving them value, building that relationship with them to where down the road they will purchase from you. All right. So that's it for now, guys. I'm going to get out of here and get everything going. Ted, thanks again for joining me. But for now,
Appreciate
guys, Serial Entrepreneur out.